everyone. Welcome to Sunday Politics live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimbaloye in Abuja. We're keeping tabs on the report submitted to the Lagos State government by the NSAS panel of inquiry over allegations of police brutality and incident which occurred on the 20th of October 2020 at the Lekki toll gate in Lagos. The Justice Doris Okwebo-led panel has submitted his report, and there are indications that the details are far-reaching. But the Lagos State government says a white paper on the report will be released in 2 weeks. That was when it was submitted. And here we began the countdown since then. And it's now 2 days to go for the white paper to be released. Our eyes are on the matter right here on Channels Television. And so, let's tell you that some of the breaking news that we're following for you right here on Channels Television, we're following for you that we understand that security operatives have engaged gunmen who invaded a correctional facility in Plateau State. The attackers invaded a Jos Correctional Center, which is located in the heart of Jos City this evening. The facility is very close to, not far from the police headquarters in the state. It also shares fence with the police division A station and as well as the state office of the DSS. The past week has seen us debate on several issues. We discussed several national issues ranging from planned subsidy removal to the issues of NSAS report and the controversies that trailed it, the activities of the ruling APC with the plans to hold its national convention in February, and the opposition PDP saying they want to rescue and rebuild Nigeria. That agenda got us talking at some point in the week. Tonight, my guests is perhaps someone who is going to be talking about all of these issues. A member of the ruling APC, is a senior lawyer, a human rights activist. Before he was appointed a minister and the Buhari cabinet, he was also the director of media for the APC campaign organization for the 2019 presidential election. Mr. Festus Keyamo is our guest tonight, senior advocate of Nigeria. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Shehu.
Perhaps part of what I didn't mention is that you're a committee in that committee set up by the president to interface with Twitter. First and foremost, how far have you gone about that? When? Because we heard soon. Soon is becoming weeks, becoming months now.
Thank you. We have made significant progress in that regard. And the reason why the president took that step, really, is to recalibrate our relationship with Twitter, not to totally drive Twitter away from our country. And that recalibration, we started it. The president graciously added me, to the committee. So we're about 5 of us in cabinet that engaged in Twitter. We also set up a technical committee. We, the minister, set up another technical committee to interface with Twitter and come up with a lot of conditions for them to fulfill for us to lift the suspension. It was Twitter, just to put it in context, it was Twitter that reached out to the federal government to say they want to know what they can do to straighten up the relationship with the federal government. And so we've gone far. I may not, at this forum, let out a lot, but we gave them a lot of conditions. They have agreed to all the conditions. What is left now are the timelines to fulfill those conditions. And once those timelines come and they fulfill those conditions, Twitter will be back to business in Nigeria.
What's the timeline?
Well, there are various issues we put on the table and various timelines for them to reach, fulfill those conditions. So it's up to them now, really.
So it is Twitter now, not Nigeria, not on the part
Absolutely,
of Nigeria.
because they know exactly what we want. And these are things that are extremely altruistic. We're talking about, for example, taxation. They've agreed to that because they have been paying taxes to other countries, and they will not be paying tax to Nigeria. So they've agreed to taxation. They have agreed to opening an office in Nigeria so that there can be some, face-to-face complaints, so that we don't have to be going through the algorithm to complain about activities of certain persons who are using Twitter in Nigeria to subvert the government of the day.
Also, the government will also want some kind of control.
Not control, understanding.
That's what you want?
Yeah, not control. We can't control, I mean, but understanding in the sense that these are peculiarities, these are, you know, in the context of our peculiar problems and our, you know, environment, there are certain things that, there are certain lines that people should not cross when sending out messages or tweeting. Things that are capable of tearing us apart, for instance, things that are capable of setting this country on fire. You know, but they use those platforms to promote and propagate some of these ideas.
Well, some people will ask you the same platform. You use it very well during the election. Your party used it very well.
Did I call for the destruction of Nigeria when using the platform?
But you didn't come for the control. You were able to go after.
No, but I didn't call. I used it responsibly. It is about the responsible use of that platform. The federal government is very anxious. Not only Twitter. In fact, we're also developing a code of conduct. Let me let that one out too. They have agreed to a code of conduct.
Twitter or every other social media platform?
And because we are doing this, we are using the example of Twitter to draw up this code of conduct for all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and all of them. Because we don't want to, we decided at the committee level that we didn't want to isolate Twitter and then give them some kind of, you know, a biased treatment, different from other social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram and all of them. So we are developing a code of conduct, not for Twitter alone, but for, you know, the general social media platforms and, you know, responsible behaviors that they must, you know, comply with. But
would that be enforceable by law? Is a code? Not under what law will it be captured? But I'm not sure.
Code of conduct can be made as a by law or some conduct under the NBC code, under the you know, through the NBC, because that is broadcast.
That's just an aside, because we have some very pressing national issues to discuss. Yes. One of which is the NSAS report and the allegations of human rights violations. So, on one hand, the president told Mr. Blinken when he came to Nigeria, when that conversation came up, that he's going to wait for the Lagos State government to release its report. On the other hand, a few days later, we saw the Minister of Labor, Minister of Information come out to speak extensively about it and criticizing the report that is not yet released, basically talking about the leaked report that was in the public domain. Now, the question, it does look like a policy somersault of somewhat. At what point did the federal government change its mind? Is this government working on the same page?
So, I will not answer this question as a sitting minister. I will answer this question as a senior advocate of Nigeria, a member of the INABA, and so I'm entitled to my personal opinion. This is not the federal government's position. For me, that panel was an illegal panel.
The panel of inquiry?
It's totally illegal.
Led by Justice Okwebe. Illegal. And set up also across the nation in at least 20 states.
Illegal panels.
Why is it so?
All lawyers who are listening to me should go back and read the Tribunals of Inquiry Act of Lagos State. It says that the governor will have power to inquire into the conduct of any person, underline any person, and then chieftaincy matters and on, and then any other matter within that to promote, you know, the good of the public. However, any person there was defined in Section 21 to mean public officers of the states. Because when they say any person of the state, within the state, officer of the state, is defined to mean somebody within the public service of Lagos State or of the local government, as the case may be. Then the phrase was used at the end of Section 1. There it says any matter that they can inquire into any matter. So people now think that to inquire into any matter, it means that you can just be at large. You can be at large. You can inquire into any matter. However, if you look at Section 21 again of the Tribunal of Inquiry Law, it says that it has to be within the legislative competence of Lagos State. The person or the matter must be within the legislative competence of Lagos State. In other words, it is only people over whom the Lagos State has control that they can inquire into their conduct. If you don't have control over me, you can't inquire into my conduct. Policemen, the armed forces, military, they are not officers of Lagos State. They are officers of the federal government. By virtue of the Constitution, it's only the federal government that can control the conduct of policemen and the military. Lagos State cannot be in control. Cannot legislate too regarding police matters. and military matters.
It's on the exclusive legislative list.
It's exactly it's on the exclusive legislative list. So when you now say any matter, listen, when you say any matter, you cannot then say that you now hide under that phrase of any matter to defeat the original purpose of the law that says do not go beyond the persons over whom you have control. So when you now say any matter, and in the course of delving into any matter, you now call people and begin to inquire into the conduct of people not under your control, it is illegal, completely illegal.
But
and no paper, no recommendation, nothing can come out of an illegal panel. Nothing.
Illegal not because...
they have powers to set it up. To set up tribunals of inquiry.
But because
in fact,
the police and the military...
By the decision of Fawahimi and Babangida doing the Oputa panel, you go and read that decision.
Yeah.
Yes, they said it is now the states that have powers to constitute panels of inquiry.
And the federal government has power to the FCT.
Only the FCT. Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
And so, let me make reference.
And that's in part 808 of Nigeria Weekly Law Report.
Yes. So and I'd like to ask you. Yes. So what you are saying is you have picked all because the police and the military are involved. The
terms of reference.
Yeah.
Go and look at the terms of reference. There are about 6 terms of reference.
Yes, but
conduct of SARS.
Yeah.
Conduct of this. The victims of SARS.
But the question
and the officers of SARS.
The question I'd like to ask you is that it's involving the citizen of Lagos State and infrastructure and livelihood of Lagos State.
But that is the point they are making now, that the government did not, the panel was not given powers and a mandate to inquire into the conduct of citizens, for example, who are fighting the police. That is what they said. They said that's why they could not indict anybody.
We can't say for sure.
That they killed policemen. Hold on. They cut the ground from under their own feet. People said, no, you can't talk about policemen that were killed or military because that was not terms of reference. So you cannot find out those people who perpetrated those offenses. So in other words, your mandate was restricted to only the conduct of the police. Not the citizens, not the victims, not the conduct of the victims.
But Minister, maybe you missed out the part where the federal government was involved in saying that state government with the Human Rights Commission should set up panel of inquiry in the states.
For me, those are political decisions. The federal government too cannot direct. Hold on. When you have powers to form those constitute panels of inquiry under your own law, can the federal government direct you? Can the federal government give directive to a state to exercise a power the way they should exercise it?
So who should have set up the panel?
No, see...
No, I'm saying now that you said it's illegal,
yes.
So the question is who would have the power to set it up? If the Lagos state government or any other state government lacks the power.
Unfortunately, the federal government can only set up that panel, for example, in Abuja, to inquire into the conduct of SARS officers and things that happen within Abuja, but not beyond. So is it because to inquire into the conduct of policemen and military, no state government can do that. No state government.
Is it not the standard logic on his head, though, when your citizens are involved in human rights violation, but because you think there is an organ of government or there is an apparatus of government involved that is under the powers of the federal government, although you have the prerogative of the federal government to look into what happened? Because how then do you investigate what happened if you don't set up a panel of inquiry?
Unfortunately, that is law. Law is not sentiments. Law is not emotions. Law is law. You cannot inquire into the... Look at what happened to Oputa panel. At the end of the day, the Supreme Court killed Oputa panel. It's not in this context. It's not on all fours. But there was no sentiment about it. With all the work the Oputa panel did, at the end of the day, it came to naught. The Supreme Court said it was illegal. That is what happened to the Oputa panel. You don't know that?
Of course.
So why? No, there was no sentiment about it. This is law.
No, the question is also there are political side to that story that you're talking about. That the government of the day will set it up and the government would have had some powers also to make the Oputa panel more effective.
How? But the federal government at that time, they wanted to just investigate all human rights abuses that happened
even the president
country,
at the time
outside Abuja, in all parts of the country, like Kalakuta Republic, the bombing of Delegiwa. In fact, it was the Delegiwa petition that brought about the invitation to Babangida that he now went to court. He went to court to challenge the summons sent to him, and that was all led to that decision. So it is not, I'm sorry. So my colleagues listening to me, I'm a member of the INA, but they should go and read it. They should read it. I'm sorry.
You stand to be corrected, isn't it?
Well, by a judgment of court. But you cannot, the state government cannot inquire into the conduct of federal officers.
So invariably, you are sitting here to tell us Nigerians that all those panel and the time they've spent is a waste.
Complete waste. My opinion. It's not a government position. I'm talking like a lawyer here. Please quote me that I'm speaking as a private legal practitioner here. First of all, I was a senior advocate for our appointed minister. So I am calling upon my own knowledge. And we have a duty to properly guide the public too.
Yeah. The legal profession is
Absolutely.
is an act of engineering.
Absolutely.
Societal engineering.
Absolutely.
And re-engineering too.
Absolutely.
If needs be. But the question
Everybody
is
should go back and read it. And read section 21. Section 21, read section 21.
Let me seek a free advice, legal advice from you tonight. If you were in the shoes of whatever that happened at that scale, that the nation was thrown into that huge tension, what would you have done differently?
Well, we also give some private advice. For instance, we definitely urged for the engagement of the youths. We called for town hall meetings. The federal government should set up, some kind of engagement team to go from state to state, appeal to the youths, speak with them, take their, their grievances, and give timelines to respond to those grievances. We made such advice that they should do that. So you can still engage them. You can still get some, results, without crafting out a political solution that is not in tandem with the law.
If you stand to say that those panel of inquiries are a nullity because of the issue of precedent in law and even in the law itself, the question is, how do you then bring closure to those who have lost their lives, to those whose family has been destroyed by the allegations of rights violation and police brutality in this country?
They can do it centrally in Abuja. Federal government has powers over police matters, over conduct of police.
Would the federal government be willing to do such?
Well, if they are properly guided, if, for example, if a court of law, for instance, declares some of these tribunals illegal, some of us, we urge that you must still bring closure. You must maybe set it up in Abuja.
Because
and so that the conduct of those policemen should be properly looked into.
Because what?
And I also urge here too that, justice is two ways. We must also find a way to bring closure to the families of those military men and policemen who were killed unnecessarily serving their country. We cannot shy away from that. In the U.S., there was an invasion of the Capitol Hill. They have refused to close that issue today. They said it's a sacrilege. You cannot come here. They killed, they injured police. Somebody died. One law enforcement agent died in the Capitol Hill. You can see that they are arresting the rioters. Till today, we are here just shouting human rights. That human rights only exist when it happens to non-uniform men. But human rights does not exist when it happens to uniform people. Who said so?
But does it take away the fact that police brutality all over the world is sacrilegious too?
Both are sacrilegious.
Does it matter?
If you are a human rights activist,
does it matter who is involved?
Exactly, you are now saying the truth.
The question is that
whatever side, the point is that whatever side is involved, you must probe those who killed policemen and policemen who killed innocent people and bring everybody to book.
Should the federal government have sent soldiers to that scene?
When there is a state of emergency, you can send soldiers.
In a civil situation?
Yes, nobody should deceive the public.
In the civil engagement?
Exactly.
What part of the law says so? That the military could be sent?
A state of emergency. You can do that.
Nobody declared a state of emergency in Lagos.
But it's akin to a state of emergency.
How?
When there was breakdown of law, the police was overwhelmed. You don't know?
At that time?
The policemen could not. They were killing the policemen.
You mixed.
They removed their uniform.
It was after that incident.
No. They removed their uniform even within, before then. Don't forget that before that time, before they declared a curfew, if you know the incidents that preceded that, before they declared a curfew on that day, there was complete breakdown of law and order. Policemen were not willing to come out again. They were not willing.
Or they didn't have the capacity to be able to withstand civil engagement, such as protests.
Whatever happens, but there was, at that point, civil society, this thing had broken down.
Mr. Keyamo,
it had broken down.
You made a name as a civil rights lawyer, as a human rights lawyer.
Fighting for everybody.
Yeah. But under this government...
Fighting for everybody.
Under this government, when you hear allegations of human rights violation, how do you feel?
I feel terrible, and nobody covers it up.
That this government is being criticized.
I'll give you an example.
Does not have a good reputation in the human rights community.
Who said so?
Amnesty International said so.
No.
You want me to play the soundbite?
The Amnesty you are talking about, they are members of PDP in Nigeria here. I know them. Amnesty
International?
Yes, members of...
That's a very weighty allegation.
Sympathetic to opposition. and they work hand in hand with opposition here.
Weren't they sympathetic to your party when you were in opposition?
Well, if you cite instances, cite specific instances.
I remember that there was an quote-unquote invasion of by the DSS to the APC data center. Just a moment, please. Just before your party won election.
Have we invaded the PDP headquarters?
No, the question is
no,
that you said I should cite, and I'm citing a situation where your party took to the streets and right organizations supported your party.
But I'm just telling you now that kind of situation was complete, breach of rights. How can you go and invade the office of your opposition in order just to win an election? In the run-up to the 2019 election, tell me one thing we did to the opposition. We fought on ideas, we fought on everything, but we never invaded the PDP headquarters.
But we're talking about the citizen of Nigeria now.
Thank God, hold on. Thank God you have reminded Nigerians of that incident now. So PDP that says they want to rescue Nigeria from us, Nigerians should remember what PDP they were doing when they were in power. They were invading offices of opposition and arresting members of opposition in their campaign offices. Has Buhari ever done that, or the APC done that to the opposition?
Let me quickly play this soundbite to you so that those who are deeply involved in the matter of NSAS, then I'd like to get your reaction. First and foremost, a member of the panel, Segun Awosanya, popularly known as Shegling, was on this program earlier on. Take a listen to him.
The thing that we can speak to ethically is the response of the government through the white paper as promised to be made public. So until then, we can go into the details. But as far as I'm concerned, what I'm hearing now is the same attitude that makes the public feel that the gap between the leadership and the led is getting wider. And this is one of the reasons why governments will never be trusted.
It's easy for governments to communicate with themselves across board. And I think that the minister should use his position in government to be able to liaise with the state authorities to clarify or check information with regards to the panel's work. So that would have been an ideal step also, and to allow the state government to carry out their task in this regard. It's not surprising for us at Amnesty International that the minister, Lai Mohammed, continues to deny the incidents that happened that unfortunate day, the 20th of October 2020 at the Lekki toll gate. Because we've seen in the last 1 year the constant attacks, the constant narrative that is put out there to gaslight victims, survivors, witnesses, and to create the impression that people are just up to no good.
So that is the country director of Amnesty International, and Segun Awosanya, the earlier speaker, was a member of the panel. I'd like to get your reaction on what they said.
Well, I've said that my colleague, Lai Mohammed, has said so much about the content of the report. I'm even saying that nothing can come out of the report, no good. But I'll just give you one or two examples, in the content of that report, why my colleague, the Lai Mohammed, took that position. I want to ask you, a rhetorical question, that when the panel found it convenient to take and play video evidence of one or two victims who could not appear, and they awarded compensation based on that, those victims could not even be interrogated because you play a video of somebody, you could not interrogate them. Now, how difficult was it for them? They said the victims' families, those people who supposedly died, why would they not extend that same privilege to them to say, okay, you are afraid to come out. We'll come and take your evidence in private, on video, so that at least the public should see that these people have relatives. They come from certain homes. They have people who care about them. But we are seeing a report where, for instance, is it credible enough to say that you said 11 or 10 people died? First of all, it was 70, it came down to 60, it came down to 20, all kinds of manner of figures. Then the panel at the end of the day came down to now say it is 11. Even among those 11, about 3 or 4 have found, they have found out to either be alive or to have died under other circumstances even before NSAS took place. Now, I want to ask you, is that credible enough, even as a journalist, for you to go ahead with that kind of thing? That people who... Death is not a simple thing. One person that dies. And I think I commend Lai Mohammed, the information. He took that paper to pieces. Lai Mohammed made a very important point. He said even goats that get lost, they have owners who will come out to say, my goat is missing. They are talking of human beings. And nobody came out to say, these are my people, my family, my brother, my uncle, my sister that died.
So your position is that nobody died?
I will not. You know, there was a pathologist that came. And the evidence I can follow, I can rely on, was that there were 3 people who they were carried to the hospital, that the pathologist said they came with 3 bodies. Out of the 3 bodies, only 1 person died as a result of gunshot wound. And the 2 others was not as a result of gunshot wound. Maybe they were falling, they were running, they fell and all that. That is the report of a professional. So why will you go away from the report of a professional that told you only 1 person died as a result of bullet wound? And even at that, they didn't say that that particular bullet wound must have come from the military. So why did they reach that conclusion? Now, listen, is it reasonable for a tribunal to come to now start talking about massacre in a context? This is the first time I'm hearing that kind of English. How can you, at the end of the day, reach a conclusion that was massacre in a context, in a contextual form? What's the meaning of that? Tell me, what's the meaning of contextual massacre? A massacre is a massacre.
You're making comments on a leaked report, which could stand as...
You are asking me questions on a leaked report.
Based on what the government said.
But you are asking me questions on a leaked report.
Based on what the government said. I started the conversation by saying what the president said and what Minister Lai Mohammed said were 2 different things.
All the journalists in the country have acted on a leaked report. And you don't want me to respond to that?
But leaked reports in this country sometimes come out to be true.
Okay, so in other words, not everybody should shut down until the white paper comes out.
So it's going to be out in 2 days.
In fact, I want to even say a very interesting thing. Why are we masturbating over a report that is not by law the final product of a process? It's to tell you the kind of evil minds behind all of this.
Let me
I'll give an example.
So when you say
if, for example, a person, do you know that at the end of the day, that report is a recommendation to the governor?
Absolutely. And there's going to be a white paper.
So why are we masturbating over it?
The use of masturbating may be extreme, Minister.
No, it is not extreme. That is what they are doing.
No. It's an extreme word for broadcast. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Well.
Minister, the Justice Garba Judicial Commission of Inquiry was instituted by the Kaduna State government about the state authorities and Shiite. Was that also illegal at the time?
Well, you need to read the terms of reference to me, and I need to look at the Kaduna State Tribunals of Inquiry law.
So because
nobody should speak from the top of their head. You need to read the law itself.
You remember what happened between the Nigerian, the Chief of Army Staff, and the issue with the Shiite and what Kaduna State government did at the time. So making reference based on the fact that it was involving the military in the issue of Lagos and the police, and so you said it's illegal because...
It can be military, but the terms of reference, they may have coined it to avoid that. The military may be involved. Don't forget that. But you may coin your terms of reference to ensure that it remains within the precinct of your powers. So you need to read those terms of reference in particular.
I'll read something that Mr. Falana said to you, but it's going to be after the break. I mean, he's a senior advocate of Nigeria, just like you.
Yes.
But we'll take a break, everyone. When we return, our conversation with the Minister of State for Labor and Employment, Mr. Festus Keyamo, senior advocate, continues on the state of the nation. Stay with us, everyone. We'll be right back. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Mr. Festus Keyamo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, the Minister of State for Labor and Employment, has been speaking with us. Thank you so much, Honorable Minister, for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Let me just read out what Mr. Femi Falana said. And he said, and I want to quote a section of what he said. He said, but by not waiting for the reaction of the state, the minister has overruled the president of the republic. As that was not enough, the minister decided to install the governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, by rejecting the report of the Judicial Commission instituted by him under the Tribunal of Inquiry Law of Lagos State. Thus, the governor, who is currently studying the report, has been presented with a fait accompli by the minister. It went further to say Mr. Mohammed described the 309-page of a judicial tribunal as fake news. As a lawyer of many years standing, this is Mr. Falana speaking, is that the minister ought to have known that it is a height of arrogant contempt to describe the report of the Judicial Commission of Inquiry constituted under the Tribunal of Inquiry law as fake. It is regrettable to note that the minister has failed to realize that the Lagos State government is not an extension of the federal government, but a sovereign entity under the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Since the name of the federal government is not clothed with any power under the Tribunal of Inquiry law, the purported rejection of the report by the minister ought to be treated with disdain by the Lagos State government. Meanwhile, he also went further to talk about the action of the National Economic Council that has called for this report for implementation. You used to stand on the ground that you were on.
But he himself described it as one of the best reports ever. We thought before the white paper has come out now. So you can see that some of these things are just hypocritical.
You're referring to what Mr. Falana said?
He's described the report as one of the best reports ever he has ever seen. So what does not give another person the right to describe it in another way? What removes the power or the discretion from any other person to describe the report before the white paper came out? He praised the report and accepted and said it's one of the best ever. So what gives him the exclusive preserve to take one stand and people should not take the other stand? Tell me, what gives him?
So, but let me, the reference that he
everybody
made,
is
that
making comments.
State is an entity under the federal government, it's a federating unit that has some level of independence.
Yeah, Lagos State has its independence. And so you are even supporting my position. The federal government functionary has their own independence to make their own opinions known. Lagos State is under federal. So what is wrong with the federal government making its opinion known, or a functionary of the federal government? This is my opinion about it.
But I mean, because you describe it as illegal, that's why I'm drawing your mind to what Falana said.
Oh, well, he didn't talk about the legality of it. I would like to engage any lawyer on the legality of it. He didn't go to, they didn't avert their minds to that. Remember this issue of service chiefs? We took it for granted. For over 15 years, I was shouting that appointment of service chiefs without reference to National Assembly was wrong and illegal. I kept saying it, nobody, until I went to court. Until I went to court and proved it. This is illegal. Simply illegal.
So how do you hope, if the National Economic Council...
See, I don't know what brought about this comment. I mean, what is arrogance about somebody saying, this is my opinion? Why do they want to browbeat everybody to take a position in this country? Who is a barometer, moral barometer in this country to say, once this position is taken by one or two organizations or persons, that is the moral barometer all of us must follow? Who says so? Who? Who?
Let me take you slightly away from that report and probably just take you to something very similar on the issue of human rights issues and issues of the rule of law. And I'll take your mind to what happened at Justice Odili's house. How do you describe that kind of incident?
Completely condemnable. We have condemned it enough. My association, MB, has condemned it, especially the criminality that was involved in the process of securing a warrant. I mean, I've never heard of such criminality before. I heard the news conference by the police. I listened to it and the process leading up to it, and certain persons who are not functionaries of the state getting involved in this process of going to search somebody's house. I hope that those persons are dealt with. They are brought to book so that it will be a lesson to others not to get involved in that kind of criminality again. Let me tell you something about the autonomy of the judiciary. This president, over every other president before now, democratically elected president, has done everything to protect the autonomy of the judiciary. You remember Order 10 that he signed last year?
Yes.
Order 10. Mm-hmm. Which government, which president before now took that step to say, I want to ensure that the judiciary and legislature are independent? Because the first thing you do to make them independent is to give them financial autonomy, so that they don't go cap in hand begging the executive all the time. And that is what the governors do to hold them to ransom. They go cap in hand begging the executive for money. So this president went beyond what is normal and said, I'm signing an executive order 10 to give effect to section 1213, because that's section 1213 of the Constitution. Mm-hmm. I will give effect to it to ensure that the judiciary is independent. What else can the man do to prove, the president prove to say, I am very committed to the independence of the judiciary? So that type of thing that happened to Mary Odili, of course, my Lord, Justice Odili must be condemned, and punishment must be served on those people who did it so that they will not try it again in this country.
Why? I mean, there are major incidents like these that have happened to justices of the Supreme Court, some other judges of some other higher courts in Nigeria. They've seen this kind of attacks, I mean, invasion of their houses, and this has happened under this government. And that's why some of the critics are saying it does look like a pattern.
Let me tell you this, first of all. And we must also know this. Why we are condemning Odili's zone is the criminality involved. And the fact that there was no allegation, no evidence, nothing. But also, let us also make it clear to members of the public, too, that on the other hand, if there are credible evidence of criminal conduct of a judge or a justice, they are not immune from search. All over the United States, they raid judges' houses. When they are involved in bribe taking and all that, FBI, they go to their houses,
there
they
are
raid them.
instances in that respect?
Oh, just Google. Oh, they are not only 1, not 2, not 3, not 10. In the United States, this is the icon of human rights, the standard bearer. They raid judges' houses when they have evidence, arrest them and charge them.
So it's okay to raid judges' houses
If there's credible, there must be credible evidence, and you cannot go searching for evidence. I want to say that. You cannot go searching, say you want to make a raid to search. No. You must have credible evidence, you must have followed it up, you must have at the end of the day, before you go there to retrieve the exhibits. Because going there is to retrieve exhibits. There must be concrete evidence. And you cannot go and embarrass a justice of the Supreme Court, say you are searching for evidence. That is wrong. But just to make it clear that if there's credible evidence of criminal conduct of anybody, whether judge or justice or anybody of the Supreme Court, it is not illegal to get a valid warrant and go and retrieve your exhibits.
What about the other rules and regulations that guide the conduct and the practice of judges? I thought there is a process to go through.
No. That does not override the criminal procedural law that says that anybody who is found to have, who is reasonably suspected or they have evidence against that they will get a valid warrant to go and search your house. It does not override the procedure spelled out in the Administration of Criminal Justice Law. It does not.
We'll take another break, and when we come back, this time around, we will delve into some politics and also talk about some issues relating to public works. The House of Reps members say that it has failed. The minister is here to defend that.
Not my program.
No,
they were referring to another program.
Another program. So we'll allow the minister to respond to some of these issues when we return from this break, everyone. Join us again. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. So, in the last week, the federal government came after the Federal Executive Council meeting that there will be removal of subsidy on petrol, and that will happen sometimes in June of next year. There's been a lot of debate over the matter. Of course, the federal government also came out to say several millions of Nigerians will get 5,000 transport subsidy when the subsidy removal takes effect. Of course, we know the implication of that. There might be hike in the price of petrol. Let's continue our conversation with Mr. Festus Keyamo. I know in 2012, you were at the forefront, one of those who say, look, at the time when Senator Bukola Saraki, as he was in the National Assembly, moved that motion, and there was an investigation into that matter. It came up to me, to show that there were few people who are making a lot of money from subsidy being paid from the federal government coffers. Your government came in and said they were not going to pay subsidy. 6 years down the line, it's obvious that subsidy is being paid. But now they say it will go.
Well, what we have now is not subsidies under recovery, but I'll come to that. It's neither here nor there. But, let me just say, first of all, that the issue of removal of subsidy is an economic necessity, Sheon, but a huge political problem. The government finds itself, and before now, even successful governments, between the devil and the deep sea. It's a big problem, but it's an economic necessity. Why is it a political problem? Because once this thing comes up, the issue of subsidy, everybody that has a grievance against government uses it as a platform to now converge and begin to make the country ungovernable. So government always finds itself in the difficulty to, navigate through this issue of subsidy. But then, what are the realities facing us? I know that between 2006, yes, 2006, under Obasanjo, and 2018, you know what the statistics tells us? We spent 10 trillion naira in this country, 10 trillion, which is about $25 billion on subsidizing. And in 2019 and 2020, we spent another 7 trillion or thereabouts. No, another 3 trillion, which is about $7 billion between 2019 and 2020, again on subsidy. And as I speak with you now, we are doing about 200 to 250 billion naira monthly on subsidy. 200. Now, put this side by side with what we need in this country to fix our infrastructure. We are virtually seeing the money. That's the money we need. Bad roads, bad hospitals, power supply. This is what we are looking for, the rails. This is the money we are looking for.
But the approach the federal government wants to take, experts have said it will cause inflation. Well, because when you put monies like that into people's hands without actually productivity, it will cause inflation.
What money are you talking about? The 5,000?
The 5,000.
No, the 5,000 is just for 6 months. The Minister of Finance said so.
So minimum of 6 months.
A minimum or maximum of 1 year. So between that. But so and that at the end of the day is the total will be 2.4 trillion. That's about 2.4 trillion.
Why spend that kind of money also?
Well, but you cannot be opposing the masses getting that. It's about 40 million Nigerians.
Oh, but the labor...
It's just to give a transitional period for them to absorb the shock. At the end of the day, listen,
economists
I think everything
it's a bad idea. Economists are saying it's a bad idea. It will cause inflation.
But everybody agrees, even the economists, that subsidy...
not everybody agrees.
No, that the subsidy must go.
Yes.
Economists.
It's a popular opinion.
Although
Labour is saying no, it should not go yet until...
Yes, because labor must protect the rights of workers. But however, let me tell you this. It would appear all the time when we have this subsidy removal that it is the poor masses that will get the short end of the stick. No. It is actually the rich and powerful that will get the short end of the stick. People don't know that. Because they are the ones that are being paid now. They are the ones that are getting the benefits of the subsidy now. Not the masses. The masses need the good roads. They need the hospitals. They need public hospitals to function so that their children will not die. They need power supply. The rich buy diesel. The poor cannot buy diesel to run their generators. So if public infrastructure work at the end of the day, the rich and the poor will come to an equilibrium. Just like you have in Europe and America. You cannot really differentiate the rich and the poor in terms of access to basic amenities. Of course, the rich will have bigger money, more money in their bank and all that. Maybe they live in a more, posh area of the town. But in Europe and America, the rich and the poor, they have access to clean water, good accommodation, and on like that. Power supply. So, and even driving a car. Anybody, even the poor can afford to drive a car because based on, so basic amenities. So everybody can have access. If we can pull this money out from this subsidy regime issue and then plough it into public infrastructure. Let me tell you the difference between the past government and this government. The problem with the past government and why some of us also fought it was that they were profligate governments. They were known and openly profligate. So nobody even trusted them to manage these monies or to, when you save this money from subsidy, that they were going to use it for infrastructure. It is this government, in fact, listen, in the history of Nigeria, no government, a democratic government, has started a rail line and completed it like we did Lagos Ibadan now. Even the Abuja, Kaduna, that the other government started, they didn't finish it. It was Buhari completed it, the project. So this is the first government that has the heart, the determination for infrastructure. For infrastructure.
You've said on channels that government is paying for premium, not for subsidy. You remember that interview? The question I will ask is, budgeting 2.4 trillion for 40 million vulnerable Nigerians, and you spend 2.9 trillion on subsidy for 4 years.
3 trillion. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, because, like I said, it's a temporary thing. The 2.4, yes, people criticize it. I've heard people say that, oh, you are trying to save 3.3.
Yeah, and you spend,
but that 3 trillion will be over and over and over. It will keep going up.
But it will cause inflation, Minister. That's the big question.
Well, if you are telling government not to pay the 5,000 out to the poor.
If we
let
the mess up the economy.
Let poor Nigerians listen to you. That
No, I'm asking. You know, as my job
I'm the one fighting
as
for
a
them
journalist.
Now. They are not fighting
no,
for
no, no, Minister. My job as a journalist is protected under Section 22 of the Constitution, who says we should hold the government accountable to the Nigerian people. If the generality, there are 200 million people in Nigeria, 40 million people are getting a certain amount that will affect the economy.
Vulnerable.
That is not the generality of the people of Nigeria.
How would it really, in real terms?
Economists will say if you put monies, non-productive monies, into the hands of people, it will cause inflation.
You are the one stating that.
No, I'm not the one. Economists have said that.
No, because at times they are blind to the fact that these vulnerable people, they need this 5,000 to even boost their small trade. They are assuming that this 5,000 they give to the poor and the vulnerable, they will not spend it wisely to boost their small trades in local areas. But that is what we envisage it will happen.
Well, it's an argument that will continue. I just have about 2 minutes or thereabout to go and have about 3-4 questions to ask on the public works and the position of the House of Reps. The transparency in that process. How much has been spent? How much are you applying? It looks like you extended the window, isn't it?
No, I just want to correct, like I did earlier. The House of Rep was not referring to the special public works. There are other components of government program that are called 7742 because they are done in all the 774 local government. So when they raised that motion, I think Honorable Kazari, fine gentleman, it was talking about PS. That program is called PS, and that program is situated in another ministry, not us. But it also has a 774 component because they want to give, I think, 100 persons per in all the 774 local governments some kind of relief. Okay, so it's not talking about for us, the special public works. If you know, on Saturday it runs, in a particular station now. What we did. It has been a huge success. As I speak with you, we didn't even see the money. The money goes from the central bank directly to the beneficiary. So it doesn't even come through us at all. We don't see the money. But 40 billion has been paid out so far. So we have achieved more than 90%. And before December, we'll do maybe 98 or 100% of the payment to Nigeria. So, and we paid them 60,000 for, light work they did, within a period of 3 months.
Although some people say that's not sustainable, that doesn't help as much, but that's the style of the government, the concept that you want to bring.
No,
but let me go to the last question
just
because
for 30
we need to
seconds.
close. Yeah.
In Europe and America, which are standard bearers, you saw that post-COVID, they delivered foodstuff and cash to people in their homes. We saw it everywhere. Right now, one of the stimulus package of the President Biden, America, is that he gives $250 to every child of a parent that doesn't have a job every month. Right now, that's the stimulus package. So why are we complaining about our own here?
Let's close, because I would have had opportunity to take you up on that a bit more. But to close, I know you spoke very well for your party in 2019, but the PDP does look like they're not happy with the current state of things. They said, in fact, this country needs to be rescued from the hands of the APC because, according to them, they said, you guys are not competent to handle the affairs of this country. And they want to rebuild it because, according to the PDP, that there's been some destruction in the polity. How do you react to that?
Well, after having suffered damage to the economic fortune in the last 6 years, members of the PDP, what they actually want to rescue are their stomachs and their bank accounts, and their economic fortunes. That's what they want to rescue. That's not Nigeria. Now, at the appropriate time when campaign starts, campaign has not started, we will meet again. We'll let Nigerians know that they want to rescue their stomachs.
But have you been able to live up to the promises and expectations of Nigeria?
With all the resources we have available, the limited resources, we have exceeded expectations. We should have done less. There is no president that has built this kind of infrastructure without money. And he has done that so prudently.
You think your party can go to the polls and still ask for votes from Nigeria from the promises and the performances?
We won in 2019. Don't listen to those vocal and few on social media. When we get to the grassroots, campaign has not started. Wait. We will tell them that they are rescuing their stomach, not Nigeria.
Honorable Minister for State for Labor and Employment, Mr. Festus Keyamo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, thank you indeed for your time tonight. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's our show for today, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm Sean Kimberley. Bye for now.